Good morning, everyone. We're here in Washington State. I like to say Washington State because a lot of people, when they hear Washington, they think Washington, D.C., beautiful Pacific Northwest. We have a beautiful sunny morning, and the weather is gonna change. Excuse me. It's gonna progress. It's gonna get warmer. So welcome to the show Siembra with myself, Yazmin Ford, host of the show Siembra in VT Radio Universal, and also I don't want to say VT Radio and One American 106.5 a voice. So, and we also have a YouTube channel, VT Radio YouTube channel, and in my Facebook page. Is you guys are listening and watching us through all these venues, welcome to Siembra. And I have, of course, I have my co-host, Pastor Dennis Gunnarson. He sits with me every third Sunday of the month, and we're gonna have a fantastic show this morning. We're gonna talk about mind games, and yes, mind games, and it is up broad. It has a lot to do. I was trying to figure out and read and do a lot of research about the subject and the topic that we're gonna talk about today. Also, I just wanted to, Pastor Dennis, good morning. How you doing? I see
Good
you
morning.
sitting
I'm
outside
fine.
in this beautiful morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. As you can see, I'm out here enjoying the nice weather.
Yes. So I wanted to first I'd like to talk a little bit about the things that's going on internationally and also around the country. So we are, and I don't know if this is the right word to say. How are you doing this morning? Celebrate.
I'm doing great.
Yes.
As you can see, I'm out here enjoying.
I don't want to know. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Celebration or the burial of the Queen Elizabeth II. She died. I believe last week she died, and I think it's a 10-day celebration. Is that right? Say celebration.
Mourning period.
Yes. But it looks like a celebration. I mean, all this stuff that it surely looks like a celebration. And I think President Biden flew, and he is in London, England, continuing we have all the presidents and all the ministers that are there to do the respect to the burial of the Queen. We also have, and there is a lot to talk about when it comes to the monarchy. There is a lot of questionings. There is a lot of asking questions. Is this going to change? Is this going to continue? Is this a necessary form of system in England? So there is a lot of speculations when it comes to the monarchy in England right now. I don't know if you have anything to say about it, Pastor Dennis.
Well, all I know is the monarchy is bridges us to the previous system of government that we had before democracy. And I didn't realize until this happened how pricey this changeover from the Queen to the King is. Because the Queen is core to everything Britain and everything United Kingdom. And when Elizabeth became the Queen, everything changed from a reference to him, Your Majesty, to Her Majesty. And now all of that has to change back. So the theme song has to change references.
So it's personalized. Everything is personalized.
Yes, absolutely. And And I didn't realize how many countries were still under the banner of the
Yes.
United Kingdom.
Yes.
And apparently, there has been discussion in many of those countries
Mm-hmm.
about going independent. And
Mm-hmm.
now would be the time, because they have to spend all that money to change everything. They might as well spend it to change reference to themselves
Mm-hmm.
instead of change it to a king.
And we talk. I know we talk during the week. I know that, and I was listening and reading up about that. The monarchy is supported by the people that live in England. The peasant, as you want to call them,
Mhm.
they pay about 40% of taxes, and those taxes go to support the this life of king and queen and princess and duchess of, I don't know. And the king Charles, that he's the king now, he is exempt from paying taxes. I don't know if I would be, I mean, happy to be, we supporting something that really, I don't know, because they don't have a lot of power. There is the politics of the governing is separate from the kingship. So I don't know why it's even necessary to have a queen or a king, but I don't live in England, so I guess it's my little opinion. I don't know.
Can I make a
Uh-huh.
clarification on the tax rate?
Uh-huh.
The tax rate of 40% is in Scotland only.
Okay.
The tax rate in Wales and England are 20%, and in Scotland it's 21%.
Wow.
So it's still high, but
Yes. Yes,
just
I
just to
mean,
let you know that.
for the life of me, I don't even know why we still, I mean, why, I don't know, because they don't really have to do a lot with the part of governing, but that is another subject by itself, you
Yes, it
know.
is. Yes, it
It
is.
is another subject, and really, there is a lot of history about the influence in Africa, India, and the Caribbeans. And there, like you said, there is still a lot of countries that is under that monarchy. So we'll see what happens in the future, and see is these countries. I know that India no more doesn't belong anymore to England, but there's still a lot of places in the Caribbean that is still under the monarchy. Um, Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with the church, not the church, going on with the in politics, because that's my little favorite thing to talk about. And I was just listening to what these governors in the South, like the governor from Texas and the governor from Florida, is doing. Is It's just crazy that people can use human beings as pawns to advance their political agenda. Is very unfortunate to see that these are people that are really are used like things. What do you think about that, Pastor Dennis?
It's a sad commentary that that governors can use people,
Mm-hmm.
transport them
Mm-hmm. It's
to
crazy.
their to states that they are in conflict with, and those people are stuck in a quandary because nobody's prepared for them. The worst part about it was when DeSantos put on at least one of the people's permanent addresses the Tacoma Rescue Mission.
Mm-hmm.
Person's never been to Tacoma, and he had it put on their permanent record that was their permanent address, which means they have to go all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast on whose dime?
Are we gonna go into this subject in a minute? For the life of me, I don't even know how people continue to re-elect and elect these people. I don't get it.
Mm.
We're not talking about race, and we're talking about human beings. We're
Right.
talking about human race. That's what we're talking about. Let's not even talk about where these people come from.
Mm.
You know, I for the life, and for you to vote for people like that, you are participating whether you want or not. If you already you already see what these people, and there's the party by itself. I don't even know. If I have to choose between the two parties,
Mhm.
this party was the only party, I would not vote. I would not even participate
Yeah.
in the political, because the fact that the way they treat people and the way they use people, to me is unconscionable. To me, I just can't even think. And we're gonna go into that subject, but I wanted to also September. And Christian, I have Christian here. Thank you, Christian, for coming every Sunday morning. Thank you. We celebrate the Spanish heritage. September 15, and I was a little bit confused because I know that Mexico independence is what, the 15 or the 16?
16.
The 16. So sorry, I know I did put I did celebrate. I think I put it on
It's
Facebook.
unbelievable. A Panamanian couldn't
Yes.
remember the Mexicans Independence Day.
And we have a lot of countries that celebrate in this month the independence from Spain. We have a lot of countries. So I think one of the reasons we have this month as a Spanish heritage month is because we have, I believe, Cuba, Mexico, Peru. Who else, Chris? Chile is today, the 18th of September, I think. So we have a lot of countries that decided to break away from Spain in this month. So we celebrated yesterday. I participated in we have a group that is the Mola, and Griff. This lady asked me if I wanted to participate in the events. They had an event in Lakewood, and we had a really good time. And Christian was there too. His daughter was part of the celebration, and we had fun, right? You had your dog, your wife, your kids. All of us was out there celebrating the Spanish Heritage Month. So for everyone that is from these parts of the world and migrated here to make a better place, to make a better life for their family, but we still are rooted with our culture and the place that we was born. Celebrations to you guys. A lot of food, a lot of different type of food, but we had a really great time. And Pastor Dennis, we're gonna jump into the topic because I had to do a lot of research and still not really, convinced about how we're gonna talk about this topic. So I wanted to just have a little opening about how did we decided to talk about what this and why we have the title of mind games. we was talking a little bit about the and I previously was mentioning the governors of these states, and we was talking about people that are participate in policies and politics and vote and support people that are against their own interests. We have people of color, minorities, and immigrants that support these people, and there is many different reasons why they do that. One is because of religious reasons, other is because of race, and also color skin. And me being an Afro Latina woman, a lot of times I find myself struggling about the perception of what a Latino woman looks like, or what the Hispanic community looks like, depending on what part of the country you are. And also seeing like Black and Spanish people and people of other race that support this type of policy and politics is just, I just don't get it. And so we decided with mind games, because we have microaggression, we also have unconscious bias, we have things that are learned, and and that consciously we don't know we're doing it, and then we have things that consciously we're doing it. And how are we embedded all these different ways of thinking about different ways group of people we think about? And I realized that even this week I did this. I went to this place, and I hear this person, a couple people talking with this heavy accent, and the first thing I asked them, where are you from? That is a tough microaggression, because you assuming that, because so so we wanted to break it down. Maybe you can explain it a little bit better and what I was explaining it.
Okay.
Sorry.
You did great. You did great. One of the things, I think the biggest challenge for all of us is to understand, how could people make the choices and do the things that they're doing, like we talked about already with DeSantis and the Texan governor. His name is escaping me right now.
Greg Abbott.
Abbott, yes. It's just unconscionable, and the whole evangelical world seems to have joined in, or at least be okay with it stuff. And it's really hard to understand that, because especially when we come from a religious heritage, the Bible teaches us that we are known by our fruits. When our fruits are rotten, then what are we really? And right now, that's what we're getting from the Republican Party, is rotten fruit continuously. And it makes you realize that people are desperate. Human nature is that we want simple answers. We want simple solutions. We want certainty, is a key concept to understand. We want, people get into religion because they're looking for certainty. They get into religion because they want an inside connection. They want special knowledge. They want special awareness. And the people people in religion, they are looking for an explanation that they've got that other people don't have, that explain how things are supposed to be. And unfortunately, we have an epidemic of predatory preachers in the Christian world that are providing outrageous explanations, and to them it's kind of like some of the talk show hosts that we've had. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, there's a recent talk show host that just died. He was given a Medal of he was given an award by Trump.
Oh, the Kent. What's his name? Yes, he.
Yeah,
He was a judge and a lawyer too.
no. I don't know, but anyway, when he started 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
he was on a show that we saw where he talked about, well, of course I don't believe it. This is entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
You would never have gotten, after that interview, you would have never gotten him to admit to that. But it was an eye-opener for Laura and I early on to be aware that this was just about making money. This was an opportunity to make money, and that's what these predatory preachers are.
Did you you talking about Ken Starr? Oh no.
No.
Okay.
Ken Starr didn't do a radio show, I don't think.
No, but he was on Fox all the time. Yeah.
He was a prosecutor for
President Clinton.
Yeah, the Clintons
impeachment.
Impeachment hearings, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I'm thinking of probably the guy that started right wing radio. He just recently died. He's had all kinds of medical problems.
Okay.
But anyway, these religious people, get into something that gives them a leg up, that gives them certainty. And the problem is, one of the things we've have come to realize is that there is not near as much certainty in the world as we want to believe there is. And the drive for certainty is misplaced because, certainty is not just in an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's in verified fact. And
one of the things that I was thinking unconscious bias, and I also was thinking microaggression. So unconscious bias is, and we talk about this. We was talking about President Obama, right? When he was President Obama, and I don't know, something happened, and he had to give this speech. I can't remember exactly what happened, and he gave this speech about race. Mm-hmm. And he, being a biracial man with a white mom and a black African dad, and having both worlds, having a grandparents being raised by his parents that they were white, and having his African family in Africa. He said, and I experienced this because I was laughing when I experienced this, that he said his grandparents didn't know how to differentiate this, that they had a black grandson, half black, and they still have this unconscious bias when it comes to black people. And they didn't connect that to him, because of course he was theirs, but the other black people, there was this notion that if you black, you automatically suspicious and you're not to be trusted. But with him was different, and it's happened to me. And it's not only white and black, it also happens in the church. It happens with a gender. We walk around with these bias and this stereotyping, and we it's the way that they taught us how to think about certain groups of people. Yes. That and now it is even weaponized by politicians and religious people. And that is exactly what Hitler did. He weaponized that. He used this group of people and said, be aware, you need to be afraid of these people. They're taking something from you, you know.
We all the weaponizing or these racial biases go back to 1453, when the Portuguese King Henry commissioned a guy named Gon de Zerara. I think I'm probably butchering his name. I don't really speak Portuguese, but anyway, they pretended to provide people insight into the racial groups around the world. And so they gave them skin color references, red, black, yellow, all of that. And they gave descriptions of general characteristics of these races. And with all of these races, they rated them by their comments, by their descriptors, and made the white race the top of the pyramid and the black race at the very bottom of the pyramid. But they made all these descriptors of race that probably until current generations, no one has ever challenged, partly because those races probably were unaware that those descriptors were out there, but partly because they probably figured these people know better. They've studied my people, and so they accepted it on themselves, which is why we see so many minority people turning on their own, because they believe these descriptors have validity, and they don't. There's no validity in them at all, but they have been embraced all these centuries as having validity.
And let me take a guess. The person that created that pyramid was white. So of course, because this is what I tell my son all the time, whosoever narrate, edit, or write the story is going to be on top of the game. It's going to be ahead of the game. Because I'm Afro-Latina woman, and I'm going to write a story. I'm going to be badass. And I'm going to be the main character of the book. But one of the things I was thinking, but I find myself even within my family, that it's not just about color, skin, and race. Religion has a lot to do with it. It has to do a lot with it. I had a conversation with my brother back and forth, of course, and he lives in Florida. Hi, my brother. He lives in Florida, and I don't know. I to be honest, I don't know what is the environment. I don't know if these people get fed every day, 24 hours on TV with these things, because I don't know. He is a black man, Afro-Latino black man. And the things that he tells me are just based on religion, like the gays. He was telling me why it is that President Biden is allowing gay people to be in the military. I said, gay people have been in the military for ever since human beings been in this earth. They're being gay people. So I don't know, closet or no closet, they're not going nowhere. Okay, so you're gonna have to live with that.
Yeah. Okay.
So the other thing was talking about prayer in church. I said, in this country, there's never been prayer in the schools. I'm saying, yes. In the schools, there's separation of state, and so I don't know, what are you listening to?
Okay. Well, let me clarify that a little bit. There have been prescribed prayers in schools. But just like in the U.S., we have civil religion. Prayers are a reflection of civil religion. So there has always been a reference to the Almighty. No specific reference that would vary from one religion to the other. Just a reference that all religions would agree to. That's civil religion. And so there has been civil prayer in schools. There has been moments of silence. There has been those types of things. And initially, when those things were brought into the schools, it was the people who are reacting to no prayers in schools that reacted to those prayers, because they believed that those prayers were stripped down and idolatrous prayers. They were the ones that opposed the prayers that were offered in schools. And once they won their argument and got those prayers out of the schools, now they're decrying that there's no prayer in schools. Which is it? Which do you want? Do you want a civil prayer or do you want no prayer? You know, make up your mind. But this is not a country where we can have a one brand of religion dictating to every other brand.
It's not a theocratic country, and I think that's what the politicians are using, because they're not even Christian. They don't even act like Christians. These people, I mean, look at these governors and look at the ex-president. So it's for the people that are leading, it to me is just a disconnection, and I don't even know how people follow that, to be honest.
Yeah. It's absurd. This nation was founded on people that were deist. And if you're not familiar with that, deist is a view of God, that God created the world and walked away from it, leaving it to run completely on its own ability to govern itself. Okay, so they didn't believe in a personal God, but they believed in the forces that created the world. So a civil God wasn't a problem to them because it made no claim to a personal God. You know what I'm saying? And nowadays those that brand of people have come out as atheists, where they don't even want any reference to God at all. But that's a change in society. It's not that atheists have they've always been. It's just
when we believe in atheist people, it's not that they don't believe in God, but they're not saying that God doesn't exist. That's what
Correct.
I think. They're saying, me personally, I don't believe in it, but I'm not saying denying its existence. That is two different things. But the other thing that I was thinking is, and going back to this group of people that, because of religion or color skin, they support policies and politics that go against their own interests. And to me is I was thinking, for example, and I was telling you, I had this lady when I just got here to the United States. Oh my God, a couple white people, and they love me. I know there was, when somebody, I grew to be like they're one of their daughters. They had two daughters, and I met them before I got married and before I had my son, and my son and my late ex-husband became part of their family. They just welcome. My son will call them grandpa and grandma, and I trust my son are probably the only people that I will go back home and leave my son with because I trust them. But there
Mhm.
was, and at first me and my ex-husband used to get like, wait a minute, we'll go and spend a day in their house and they will sit and talk about black people in this way. And we are sitting here saying, wait a minute, we're black, and there was a disconnect. It was like, yeah, we think about these people, but you guys not in there because we love you and we know you. And there was a disconnect. And I see how the generational disconnection is there too, because we have a group of people from this era that think certain way, and then we have the generation of your daughter and my son that they grew up not thinking about people this way when they think about the LGBT community, because in school they grew up seeing these things.
Right.
My son best friend was and is white, and he hang out with a lot of white kids. So you see
And
that disconnection when it comes to generation too.
yeah, and part of that is to our credit, because our kids are not inundated with all of this bias everywhere. They're hearing it from segments of society, but they're not hearing it from everywhere. A lot of us grew up with that bias literally everywhere, and we as children, we just accepted it because these are adults. They're smart. They wouldn't mislead me. They wouldn't teach me something that's not correct. But as we grew older, we realized that there was problems with this stuff. We didn't maybe know how to explain it or how to understand it, but we knew just the way it was presented to us wasn't quite right. So we modified how we interact with our kids, so our kids don't have the continuous bombarding of these biases
Yes.
that are there. But we still see those. When you brought up religious bias, we still see those religious biases promoted.
And there's no color to that. It's not, because like I was telling you with my brother, there is just, they believe that the Bible say this, and then we have these people weaponizing these things and
Yes.
really convincing these people that this is the way the things are supposed to be on, so
We have two of our hot topics right now are homosexuality or LGBTQIA plus, and
woman rights.
I can't believe I just said that whole thing out without having to hesitate and question myself. Apparently, I've said it enough lately that it's so. And then women's rights.
Yes,
and
we're going backwards.
But women's rights, that is, of those three, that is the oldest issue of those three. Abortion and LGBTQIA plus, both of those are relatively recent developments. There was a time when abortions took place in this country and nobody thought twice about it. It wasn't until a few states started making it illegal that it became an issue that the Supreme Court then made a decision on and granted it a right to everybody.
But abortion it's been there, and I want to use an analogy. You go to have dinner and they put all these how do you call all these things, forks and knife, but you're not going to use them, but they're right there. And
Right.
I think with the Republican Party, they forever had this one thing, this one tool that they say, as soon as we can, we're gonna use this to
Yeah.
take away women rights, and
Right.
also to cater to this religious national Christian national a group,
Hmm.
and this is what they're doing. So abortion, yes, there was
Hmm.
no question about women having abortions, and there was no question, but in the back of the minds of the religious community in this country, there was this thing right here that as soon as we can, we're gonna force this into every woman in the United States if we
Yeah.
can.
All three of those positions have been battlegrounds in the church for well, uh, LGBTQIA plus
Mhm.
and abortion have only been around a couple hundred years, maybe.
Mhm.
Women, that's been around literally forever,
Mhm.
and it's not that there's been a sudden change with the women's issue, because in Jesus' day it was just as hot of an issue. The
Yes.
Rabbi Galil
Yes.
was pro women, and pretty much all of the rest of the rabbis of Jesus' time period were against women. He was a standalone amongst the rabbis that supported women, and of course his primary disciple that we know of is the Apostle Paul,
Mm.
which is what goes against understanding of the New Testament references to women and demeaning them. Because if he meant it to be straight across instead of sarcastic and using it in an argument to make a further point later, it doesn't make sense that his mentor was such a strong supporter of women in a community that didn't.
And one of the things with the church that I have learned through the years, and I'm so grateful to God and to the Holy Spirit, because um, I think we go and we read the Bible and we think that everything in the Bible is good, and the Bible is just a book of stories of the relationship between men and God, and the nature of the human nature of human. But everything in the Bible doesn't mean that because it's there is good. It's just
Right.
telling you a story of how that complex relationship between God and man. And also, one of the things that I have learned through reading the Bible and stuff is that I make sure when people said, "Well, the Bible said this," I said, "Well, who said it? Who said it in the Bible?"
Mhm.
Because that's what you got, because we have men interpreting the Bible. So who said that? And
Right.
Paul is the one that wrote most of the New Testament. I said, Jesus, look at all the red. Everything that is red is what Jesus said. And I will tell people, Jesus never talked about abortion, and he never talked about gay people.
No.
Ever.
And when he talked about women's rights, he was very
Ever.
supportive. Yeah. No, you're right.
That is the person that you are worshiping, the Son of God, and he didn't spoke about that, and he walk around and hang out with women and in the street. He saw a lot of things in the streets,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he didn't mention that. So when we read, and I don't think purposely the church and the leadership of the church doesn't tell people this. Who
Mhm.
said it?
Mhm.
Who said that? It was
Right.
Jesus, Paul, Peter, or Mark, or who said it? Or
Yeah.
John? because
You know, the Bible, like you said, is a group of stories. And when we're talking about unconscious bias, it was literally everywhere
yes.
in those stories. They had biases about who God was and how God related to people and how we were to relate to people. And even though the prophets reveal to them a difference of understanding of who God was and how he interacted with us, they continued to hold on to those biases
And
throughout the Old Testament. And we like to think that if it says that the Lord said this and the Lord said that, that was a direct quote from God. No, most of those, the Lord said this, the Lord said that, were a person's biases.
And we bring our own interpretation based on our life experiences.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
that's it. So the same verse that you read, I'm gonna read it, and I'm gonna see very different than you, because we just very different. We
Right.
live different experiences as you are a man and I'm a woman. Just being that, not even talking about the other things, But one of the things that, like, sometimes I talk to people and I said, there's no way, I don't care. People said, well, you don't believe everything. I said, no, not believe. I read the story, but for me to have to, like, almost literally uphold those things that the Bible, no, you read it as a story and you take something away from it as a learning tool. But I tell people a lot of times, you really think that God will say that slaves obey you master? Do you really? And I have black people saying yes. I said, are you serious? Do you think God put that in the Bible? Do you really think God, or a woman saying, or the Bible saying, woman, obey your husbands, and you don't have a place, the woman doesn't have a place or something? I said, you really believe that God would put something like that? No.
Well, I think when we're talking about that, I think it's important to understand the level of that communication. Clearly, you are right. That is not a universal declaration of truth. That should not be understood as a directive that should be applied by every person everywhere. That is violating the sanctity of the scriptures to do that. But those people were in a particular context in which maybe honoring your husband or honoring your owner was the best they could hope for in that context. So I think in their, that was a cultural directive.
But to say that God said that's a different story.
To make it universal is aggressive and wrong. The Bible gives three different levels of directives. One is on a personal level, another is on a cultural level, and the third is on a universal level. And we have to learn critical thinking skills to grasp what level that directive is on. A lot of the teaching like that by Paul was directed at that culture only. It wasn't intended to be sent down to our generation and be applied as a law. It wasn't, that's not the purpose of it. He was trying to keep them alive, so for the next day, and so, and in Roman culture, the culture was based on slavery. Literally everything was based on slavery. And if people had an owner that had any regard for them, that was a massive blessing, because it protected them from being under a slave owner that was cruel and unreasonable. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because pretty much all of the Christians in the early church, almost the majority of them, if not the totality of them, were slaves.
So, and for me, the point is that you look at the Bible, and you can't say, you have to really, really look and say who wrote the book and who said what they said. And
Right.
Instead of saying, well, God said it, so that it must be this way, and you can't question it. That's the other thing, is this questioning. I was talking to somebody last week, and they was like, I do question, and one of the things that he said, well, you shouldn't be questioning God. I said, no, the questioning
Absolutely.
is to the leadership. The questioning, pastors, they sit in the pulpit and say you shouldn't question God, but really what they're saying, don't question me,
But the Bible says to study to show yourself approved, a workman that does not need to be ashamed. He intended us to question it. Questioning God is very different.
It's
than questioning
healthy.
what's on a piece of paper.
It is healthy to do
It's
that.
healthy, absolutely. When God speaks, he's gonna probably silence us, and we're gonna be so dumbfounded we won't know what to say. Okay, but just because the Bible says it does not mean that God is saying it.
Yes.
He
I
gave
like
the
that.
book.
I like
He
that.
gave-
Say that again,
Yeah.
Pastor. Say that again.
He gave the book to us to learn. And one of the problems with unconscious bias today is that we treat bias in the same way as we treat the Bible. We take it at face value and we accept it even when it's wrong. And with the Bible, as with unconscious bias, we need to be willing to learn. The Jewish people had no problems arguing and debating the scriptures. Christianity has turned the Bible into an idol. Instead of grappling with the issues in scripture, we see the Bible as something that needs to be proclaimed and declared flawless.
And
the Bible doesn't even claim to be flawless.
And I think I probably should say, but I'm gonna say, in a way, I think the Bible and the church have dumbed down people. It has made not people think and have this critical thinking tool that is in there to question and to break things down and to unravel things and to put things apart and put them back. And it's dumped that out. It's just got people into a state of dumbness that I don't understand. How
Exactly.
can you really believe that the ex-president, he is a Christian? How could you, for the life of me? I have people telling me, I have people in my family telling me, no, he is a Christian. I'm like, wow.
This this brings up something that I have been recently studying. I've been studying cults. And it used to be that they would do an intervention with cults, and that, you know, they would do these deprogramming weekends. They learned that the deprogramming weekends do not work. They might pull people out of the cult, but they don't change the thinking that was programmed into them while part of the cult. Because the whole deprogramming thing just endorses the beliefs that the cult taught them. And I have to wonder if it wasn't the deprogramming that has helped create the problem we've got. These cults have taught a whole generation of people how to think and how to mistrust. And maybe they've left the cult, but their programming to distrust is still very real, is still very much a part of who they are. Okay. But what they've realized is that what cults do is they take a person in, they take a hurt or a pain from their childhood or from their recent past, or maybe something they're going through at that moment. They offer a solution in the form of a prescription. So the prescription is that they're programmed on how to deal with that and how to remedy whatever that thing is. So they take a free-thinking person and they program them like a computer so that they keep their minds occupied with this programming. And they do that through sleep deprivation. They do that through chanting. We call it prayers or worship. Okay.
Oh my God.
They keep people's when they're beginning to question what they believe, then pray about it. Okay?
Everything is
back into your programming.
Yes.
Okay? You need a good worship service. Get back into your programming.
No, there is things that I have relatives. Is anything bad happens to you, is because you're not going to church.
Exactly. Get back into the program.
You need to go back to church, and then you see that your life is going to change, right?
Exactly. Yes.
It's just crazy.
But the way to get a person out of that cult is to get them into a context, and when they did think for themselves, when they did reason for themselves, and then start slowly introducing things to think about, to challenge that programming, and one of the ways they do it is by talking about people, having them meet people who are part of other cults and talking about their programming that they had and the struggle to realize it was programming. And so this person, they're not being directly challenged, but they're looking at this other cult as being flawed and creating this monster. And then they bring it back home and say, do you see connections here? Do you see those kinds of things happening here? And start getting them to question the programming they've had, and then slowly breaking down that programming so the person themselves sees the flaws in the programming and not somebody else telling them what's wrong with the programming. Does that make sense?
It does. And now I was thinking, programming, like my brother, right? And I love you, Dennis. His name is Dennis too.
Oh, okay. Hey, Dennis.
And he is in church right now. And he how an entire state, I say entire, but I'm not literally in Florida, so I can say the entire state. But it almost feel like that because we have this judge, the judge that they pick to put a special master to go through the papers and all of that.
Mhm.
She is Latina. She is from Florida. And what's his name? The senator, not what's his name? Marco Rubio.
Marco Rubio, yeah.
He's the one that got her got introduced her to Trump, and that's how she became Supreme Court at 41 years old. And she was born in Cali, Colombia, and she is a Spanish woman. And for the life of me, I don't understand. She's coming from a country that most of us that came from other countries, we're running from dictatorship, we're running from disparity, we're running for poorness, and she got into a position where she can change that for woman, Spanish woman, and look what she's doing. I'm like, are you serious? And for me, in my head, I'm thinking that everybody in Florida is bombarded with this way of thinking. I'm thinking 24 hours they are listening to these things that they really believe that the stuff that they listen to is true.
Mhm. Well, Florida is big with the seniors. And the seniors are the ones that are the most inundated with all of this bias. They're the ones that haven't been altered, they haven't been changed, they haven't been challenged to see things differently. And so it makes sense.
And we're talking about this generational gap, but this woman is from Cali, Colombia. She's a woman, a Spanish woman, was born there, and she's 41 years old.
Well,
she should know better.
Chances are these biases are not necessarily believed by one race against another race. These biases are often felt by people about their own race.
But I'm not even talking about race so much than gender for her.
Okay.
Gender.
Well, even gender.
Being a woman, it's just that.
It follows the same way of. It works the same way, whether it's gender or whether it's racial or whether it's something else. There is a bias against women that
from women
she has embraced, and she sees herself as an anomaly. She sees herself as unique amongst women, and she doesn't relate to the large, vast group of women. She considers herself an elite of the women. And that's the only way she could do that.
And yesterday I went to the library trying to do a little bit of research about this, and I was having a hard time finding it specifically what I was looking for. And they had this girl, one of the ladies from, she young girl, probably in her early 20s. And I went and we was talking about it because I was trying to research, and she went in a computer and started looking and stuff. And we started to talk, and she said, I know what you're saying, because she said, I can't get that all these women that supported, she said, I just don't get how women can support these ideas and this party. She said, for the life of me, I don't understand it, how it is that how we have women supporting this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when a racial group or a gender or anything, even a socioeconomic class, are not able to to rise to their potential. There's two ways to look at that. Okay, one of them is either they don't have enough discipline to get where they need to go, or they have unmet needs, and they have a culture around them that is opposed to them, that they have to fight, and is unreasonable to for them to expect them to rise above it unless we change the culture around them and remove those obstacles. Okay, and that is the difference between Republican and Democrats. Republicans say it's all about the inner drive to beat it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to beat anything. I'm going to overcome anything, and it is a way of seeing themselves not as the norm, but as unique, as special.
In a bad way.
And so these people, they don't reject the biases and the stereotypes.
Because uniqueness,
we just rise above it.
Uniqueness is not a bad thing, but when you are impacting other people's life, and basically you, and I don't know is I agree with you in this, Pastor Dennis, because they're coming as a group. They're coming as and pushing all these agendas to people. It's not. It's I don't know, but
what's behind those agendas is the question. Is the agenda about teaching people to grab a hold of their bootstraps and rise above this and become special, or is this about removing the obstacles so the whole community can rise? Do you understand I'm different?
Yes.
That's what we're talking.
Actually, they're putting stuff in the way so these people don't rise.
Exactly.
And these people don't even get it. Because you think you and I get what you're saying now. You think you special,
right.
And you part of that group. You're not. And that is the disconnect. When we look at the people that support this type of agenda, you are not part of that elite. You're not part. You're not part of Trump circle. Yeah. And I don't get it, but I wanted to talk a little bit about solutions. So what would you think can make people change when it comes to bias? Unconscious biasness, and I think there is again that gap. There is that gap that you just mentioned too. Like in Florida, we have a lot of older people living in Florida, but we have that gap where we have my son and myself, and then we have the people that is in my mom age. That as my mom, she thinks about the LGBT community and about abortion stuff because of the church. They are totally against it. What you think it would be the solution? Because for me, I'm thinking it's so simple, but I don't know if people don't get it. It's about connection. It's about removing the gender. It's about removing the color. It's about removing culture. It's about doing those things, removing all of that and asking yourself what it is that you want and what really separate us and what really get us close. Because most of the things, there's more things that join us and that we want and things that separate us. But we have this group of leadership, these people that really focus and pointing the things that separate us and making sure that they point those things to keep us that way, instead of looking at how as a human being we are connected, because we are.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two groupings of people that we have to be aware of when we're trying to make improvements. Okay. Relationship is the only way that any of these biases are going to be laid to rest. That's the only way it's going to happen. It has to happen through people getting to know people that don't reflect the biases that they've had in their heads. Okay, and some people, just by realizing that group of people don't universally reflect that bias, that will be enough to change them. But there are others who don't really think it through, or they keep rationalizing the bias. And so they live in this split world between the people they know and the community that person comes from. And they see them as separate somehow or another, which is like your friends you mentioned. Those are the people that are a little harder to change.
And and I was thinking about this lady that I was telling you, Barbara. She passed in 2015, and her husband passed in 2017, and I miss her a lot. And I thinking about her, that at first when me and my husband, we used to go and they would say little things that rub us in the wrong way, and then we would go home and talk about it, and that was kind of racist, and we would say that. Then after a while we just got used to it. We said they are the way they are. And we didn't have a doubt that they love us and that they welcome us. And it wasn't only me that she opened her house. She had a house where she had people from all over the place on the world. She will welcome them to her house. But I think, like, unconsciously biased, they were sitting there and actually doing that. And at one point we just got used to it, and we was like, cool, it's like, okay, they are what they are.
And unfortunately, that is why those things still exist.
Because we don't call them out.
Well, there's you can call someone out in different ways. You can be confrontational, which is marginally
it's not going to do nothing
work.
Really well.
Sometimes just being vulnerable and helping the person understand how it makes you feel to have that thing said about you. And your culture.
But Pastor,
challenge.
Pastor Dennis, when I just met her, I had the bias too, because I remember saying why is this white lady inviting me to her house? What does she want? And every time I go to her house, I would be like, what is she want? And she was one person. They have this saying, Maya Angelou said, it's not what you said or what you do, is how you make people feel.
Yes,
and
exactly.
She will make you feel so special, very special. You go to her house and she make you feel like you are the most special person in the world. But at first I was taken back, what is she want from me? So I also went in with that thing, this is suspect, right?
Well, some people like that. If you were to say something to them, you destroy the relationship, because they're all about performing. They're not being really open with you. They're just performing. Okay. But sometimes you have to put relationships at risk. Jesus talked about that he came to bring a sword between father and son, mother and daughter.
Yes. Families.
And the concept there was that sometimes you have to address issues that could destroy the relationship, but what relationship do you have if you don't address those things? And I
Yeah.
realize we're
And
out of time, right?
and transparency. But we all have 2 minutes, about 1 minute. Pastor Dennis, thank you. But I wanted to talk about your book for a little bit. Everyone,
Oh, okay.
this is Pastor Dennis' book, Fostering a Healthy Soul. Please, if you want to nurture your spirit, if you have those roots that were you inner religious soul, and how all this relationship with God start and how it transitioned, read this book. It's pretty good. Pastor Dennis,
Thank
you
you
have
very
a
much.
wonderful day. Amazon, you can get it. They're still at they're still running $6.
No, it's $8.94 now.
$8.94. Please get it. Pastor Dennis' book. Okay. Pastor Dennis, you have a wonderful day. And thank you.
Yes,
Thank
you as well. Thank you.
Okay.
And happy Hispanic month,
Heritage.
everybody.
Okay.
Heritage.
Thank you.